Aloha and mahalo. Welcome to the Daniel K. Inouye Airport located in Honolulu, Hawaii. When we first looked at this project, we really wanted to pick something that'd be a bit more challenging than your usual airport. So when we were able to look at said airports, we were able to see that this was ranked number 4 nationally for one of the worst airports ever. This provided us a big challenge, to say the least. So when we started reviewing the comments, we saw a few systematic issues. One, connectivity. In an age that's increasingly modernized, it's really hard to connect with people face to face, so we use our phones. But when there's no place to charge said phones, that becomes a huge liability. Number 2, our aesthetic. Instead of being a cool, colorful, beautiful culture that Hawaii has, it instead was labeled old and tired and just completely outdated. And number 3, our signage. For such a tourist hotspot with no signage, and tourists, honestly, let's be real, they really don't know where they're going to begin with. So when there's no signage, it really is an issue. I'm Madison Sims, and I want to welcome you to Hawaii, and these are my fellow colleagues, Ian, Abby, and Nyla. I'm going to pass it over to Nyla, who will continue with our inspiration.
Hi everyone, so I'm Ian. So our project is split into 2 major parts. So the first part, we have the airport renovation, and then secondly, we have our fishport aquarium and super ferry. So the prompt to the challenge was to have a multimodal hub of transportation, so we wanted to incorporate both aspects. So first off, the airport renovation. So these are a couple of just preliminary sketches just to give you an idea of like what we were talking about. So for one, we wanted to make sure we have moving walkways, because we watched a lot of videos of people walking through, people complaining about it takes like way too long to go from gate to gate. So we want to have moving walkways throughout both Terminal 1 and Terminal 2. We want to have local food options as well, because another complaint was that there wasn't enough local options, as well as upgraded amenities, because there was complaints about them not being clean enough. As well as Terminal 1, we want to have a massive exterior facelift done, because that has not been renovated since the 1970s. So the style is very brutalesque and old, and we want to make sure it is more traditional in Hawaii and colorful. As well as you want to have more natural light. So with that exterior facelift renovation on Terminal 1, we want to raise the ceilings a couple feet, and we also want to model it off of the current LaGuardia Airport and make sure there's a bunch of curtain walls that you can see out from your gate onto the runway. And also, like Addison said previously, we want to make sure there's signage is straightforward for our tourists, so it's an easy, smooth experience.
So when we're looking at airports to take inspiration from, a few came to mind. LaGuardia and JFK, our very own MCO airport, and San Francisco International. Previously, these airports had not been up to date, but after a few renovations, they were able to become ranked highly among airports that you should visit. So our plan is to take inspiration from these well-known and well-respected airports and implement their designs and concepts into our Honolulu airport. So imagine, you're taking modern functionality and you're combining traditional culture. That's what we plan to do at this airport. We still want to keep the Burlesque and Romanesque themes of the Hawaiian tradition, but we also want to include a modern look. Modern has a light and bright feeling, as do normal traditions of Hawaii. We can implement these using murals. Murals has been a Hawaiian tradition commonly used throughout years to express individuality, but also connectivity. So in using these in our airports, we're able to use Honolulu artists who come and able to express in our very own airport their ideas and functionality, but still keeping up with a modern look. Now Ian's going to come up and discuss our airport remodeling phasing.
So like we talked about earlier, there's 2 different parts to our project. One is the aquarium slash super ferry that we're going to talk about later. But the first part is the terminal renovation. And so currently there's Terminal 1 and Terminal 2. Terminal 1 hasn't been updated since the 1970s. And Terminal 2 was just recently added in 2021. And that has all the international, or non-domestic flights. But Terminal 1 is the one we need to fix the infrastructure, the exterior infrastructure. So we're gonna set up into 3 different phases to ensure that the airport is fully operational during our construction period. And that is modeled off of the recent LaGuardia Airport renovation. So it's a massive, LaGuardia Airport is a massive airport, and they were able to keep it fully functional for the customers. So we're gonna split both level 1 and level 2 into 3 phases, and that also means that during parts of our renovations, we're gonna have to use temporary pedestrian bridges. We're gonna have to construct them to make sure that the gates stay connected to security as well as the baggage claims. So we're going to talk about the second part of the project now. So that involves bringing back the Hawaii Super Ferry. So when we were figuring out what kind of project we wanted to do, obviously we had the airport, but then we wanted to think what second form of transportation do we want to add. And obviously Hawaii is an island chain, so the most logical solution was to add a ferry. So we looked into it and we realized it was weird because there was not a single ferry system currently. And we looked back into the history, and there used to be one in 2009. It was shut down, the Hawaii Super Ferry, and it went to all four major islands: Kauai, Oahu, Maui, and also the Big Island. And the reason for that was they had environmental lawsuits because of the fact that they had gasoline motors. One of the major complaints was the vibrations the motors were creating, as well as the noises, were affecting marine life, as well as whales' migrational patterns. So that being said, we wanted to make sure the Super Ferry is all electric, which means this was one of our biggest costs in our project as well. So this ferry you see on your screen is currently being used in Norway. It's about $23 million, and it's fully electric. And this also carries about 200 cars as well as 600 passengers. So this will allow not only passengers to go straight off their plane to another island, or locals to go from their island to another island by boat, but it'll also allow them to bring rental cars, their own cars, and things like that. And 80% of current Hawaiians think there needs to be an inter-island system that's brought back. So this here on your screen is the site plan of our fish port. So basically we have, you can see in the orange rectangle, that is the main plan of our port for our ferry. It is very stereotypical. You have your typical vehicle loading area, as well as your passenger terminal, gangway, as well as this will be connected to the airport with about a 4-minute shuttle. We're using the existing Wiki shuttle system. And then the main thing that we wanted to do differently to set this port apart from predecessors is creating an aquarium for passengers when they're waiting, as well as locals that they can use. And that's highlighted in that blue section. So this is a 3D model we created in SketchUp of the aquarium that we wanted to add. So as you can see, there's a lot of different colors. There's blue, orange, black, and that's all because of our aesthetic theme. We wanted to model after the national fish of Hawaii, which I don't know the name of, but Addison is.
It's called a Humanumu apawa'a.
Also known as the reef triggerfish, for short. But that's our aesthetic theme, and this is going to be an education aquarium. So not only will this be a waiting area for passengers on the ferry to have something to do other than just wait, but you can also bring in local school groups, local residents, as well as visitors. And we want to stress there's going to be educational exhibits within this aquarium that stress talk about the endangered marine life around Hawaii. Some of the fish species will be featured in the aquarium tanks, as well as we're going to have once a month program where there'll be a beach shoreline cleanup program. We'll have that as well, emphasizing the sustainable aspect and conservation in Hawaii. And also you can see on the back side of the building, with the concrete columns as well as the overhead, the orange overhead. That'll be an outdoor space for another area where you can have local foods from Hawaii that locals as well as people waiting on that those ferries can access. And then,
Hello, I'm Nyla, and I'm going to be focusing on the sustainability aspect. So we want to make we want to make the Honolulu airport sustainable. And they're already in the process of making it sustainable, but they have also promised, Hawaii wants to be the first US state to have 100% clean energy, and we're just here to help that out. So we've been planning on adding more renewable energy sources, such as you can see in the picture. We were thinking of adding solar panels to our parking lot spaces. And also, for example, a way that we're trying to help them is by adding more rain harvesting systems and then solar canopies. That's going to help bring our renewable sources from 6% to from 8% to 16%, and this is going to help our HVAC systems and cover our HVAC systems for Terminal 1 as well as Terminal 2. So this is the LEED V4 for BD plus C checklist, which is basically just the version 4 LEED certification. We have a total score of 70, which is gold. So that's one away from platinum, which is the highest, so we're the second. And basically there's 8 categories. For example, some of the specific marks that we hit in, for example, sustainable sites would be that we are planning to add more solar. We're planning to do cool roofing systems, especially on our fish ports, which we'll be adding. And then water efficiency, as I mentioned prior, we have rain harvesting systems. And then for the innovation section, as Ian was mentioning earlier, we're going to have the beach cleanups for our coastlines, as well as the field trips for local schools, and just to show local children how important it is to make sure that the beaches stay cleaned, and especially to help our endangered species and marine life. We're moving on to the estimate.
Hi, our total project cost will be about $232 billion. Our main focus was the Terminal 1 renovation, which was the biggest portion of our budget. It will cost us around $80 million. Our main focus is to give that structural facelift to the building and create the more welcoming atmosphere for travelers to want to come. Another main point for our total budget was the super ferries. The all-electric ferries costing around $23 million each will be our main port. We'll have 3 of them, and they'll carry about 600 passengers and 200 cars to transport, like Ian said. Those were our biggest portions of the budget, but we also included our landscaping and our solar. Our solar is another big part of our budget because we are trying to make us as green as possible. This is the breakdown of our Terminal 1 budget. We really want to emphasize the going green. The LED lighting will be completely powered by the solar panels, so that will take away the main cost for the lighting. We also wanted to improvise the interior. They have an interior shrubbery inside the airport, so we were going to add landscaping throughout the whole airport so it would look green the whole way through. The Terminal 2 renovation would consist of moving walkways to continue the movability throughout the airport as consistent as possible, keeping everybody moving and the traffic flow continuous. Our final budget was the fish port, which was the aquarium and the boardwalk. The main part here was the dredging, was to get the land underneath the water as flat as possible and as deep as possible, so we could have it be a port for our electric ferries. We continued with the LEED certification here while we were getting our lighting and our solar panels to keep it as green as possible. I want to add a note on the ferries that the reason we chose to do them electric is because they will pay back in 8 years. They will pay for their costs when keeping them electric.
So then our construction timeline, so the total time we're expecting is about 3 years. And as you can see, broke it up into chunks, into quarters. So first off, just looking at from an overall perspective, the airport remodel and the fish port are going to be happening simultaneously to ensure that we get this done within 3 years. So, first with the airport remodel, obviously we have to have permitting, so we can't start any of our construction until we get that permitting done. And then each of the phases I talked about earlier with Terminal 1 being, the exterior being renovated, each of those phases is gonna take up about 6 months each, and we're gonna overlap. So once we're almost done with one, we can start, we're almost done with like the exterior for one phase, we can start with the interior for that phase as well. And then towards the end, we're also gonna have landscaping, about a quarter for that as well, so 3 months. And we're gonna have that for both the fish port and the airport remodel. And so going on to the fish port, we're also gonna have a 1 quarter permitting period, as well as things such as site clearing, and dredging is gonna be a big thing. So we're gonna have about 6 months for dredging, and that's because our fish port is located in a low-lying lagoon, so we need to excavate a little bit of that before we can get ferries going in and out of that area. And then we're also gonna have time for structure, foundations, as well as we're gonna have a section for MEPF, so mechanical, electrical, plumbing and fire, to ensure that our buildings are safe and up to code. And so we have about a quarter for interior finishes, exterior finishes, and landscaping as well. And then the final note on the timeline is that big red streak you see across the middle. That's gonna be our solar canopy, or our solar parking canopy construction period. And we're gonna have that ongoing this entire project because we wanna ensure that there are parking spots available for all customers, workers, etc. during this period. And everything should be done around 3 years. So with that, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you mentors, judges, and everyone else.